What is going on? All right, I'm going to turn it down enough this time. All right, so now you can hear me announce the show.
Yes.
This is Whiskey with an Agent. What are we on? Episode 15, I think, right? Episode 15. Oh my goodness. There's so many shows so far. Tonight we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about brokerages. What are brokerages? Why are they here? What are we doing with them? Hey, my notes just signed out. Great. I know what I'm doing.
You know that music, bro.
Oh yeah, good idea. So tonight we've got. Dang it!
Still a work in progress, everyone.
I know. I got to put my password back in. It literally cut out on me right as I was in the middle of that. What's going on, Chris?
What's up, buddy?
What's up?
Life's good. Sun is shining. The birds are chirping. I'm having a drink.
Heck yeah!
Great. It's a great day.
It is. It is.
What about you, brother?
It's good, man. I'm actually excited about. Well, I'm always excited about our show, but tonight I'm extra excited because we have a very, very special guest. So, I mean, let's go ahead and I think we should introduce him and bring him on. So our guest tonight is going to be. He's the owner of Century 21, Alton Clark. He's been in the industry for 20 plus years. He's been a broker for 8 years, at least, or 8 or 9 years, I think. He'll have to tell me if I'm getting that right.
He'll happily introduce himself and correct you in all manners.
Well, I know, but get this. His brokerage is ranked number 2 in Central Florida. It's ranked number 13 in the entire state of Florida. And without further ado, we have James Clark. Wait. There it is.
You guys are ridiculous.
I know.
The man, the myth, the legend, everyone, James Clark.
James Clark. He even put his last name on his tag there. James Clark. Should we call you James Clark, or should we just call you James? Can we just call you James, Mr. Clark? How should we address you?
Oh God, put him on a pedestal, Jared.
Hey, I mean, he is the man that runs the show behind the curtain. He's like the Oz, the man behind the curtain.
That he is. He is. That is awesome. James, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm fan-damn-tastic, man.
That's awesome.
Sitting here with not a thing to do but talking to you guys and having a cocktail. So,
So what is that cocktail, sir?
Well, I'll spare you the bad story in high school. I don't do whiskey anymore. Whiskey did not agree. Okay. Alcohol poisoning was involved, so this would be
mistake number 1. So it's just Captain? Captain and Coke?
Captain and Coke.
Love
it.
Hey,
nice.
Captain is a great substitute for whiskey. I love it. It's a great go-to drink. Jared, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I couldn't decide, so I brought 3. Well, 2 of them have been sitting on my desk for the past 3 episodes, but I brought here it is, Tagashi. I got this one from Japan when I was over there, and this one is super, super smooth. I've had it on the show before, but I try not to drink a whole lot of it because, I don't know, it's so good, but I don't want to drink it too fast. But I've also got the Piggyback, and then another Fuji, or another Japanese whiskey. It's the Fuji Sanroku, which is, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, Fuji Sanroku, it stands for the foot of Mount Fuji. So, and it's a really, really good one too. So I'm kind of torn which one I'll be drinking tonight, but I guarantee it'll be one of these 3.
That's awesome. I'm actually getting into a Japanese kick myself.
So
this one is Kikori. And so essentially, Kikori. So it's a whiskey product of Japan. And apparently it's distilled from rice and pure mountain water in Kumamoto, Japan, aged in barrels for 3 years.
Interesting.
It's inspired by a Japanese folktale of Vizu, an ancient woodsman who wandered the forest for centuries seeking the perfect balance to his life, and he discovered whiskey.
I wonder how much whiskey he drank after he discovered life.
Probably a lot. Let's just be honest with that.
That's getting philosophical.
Extremely. So I'm really excited for this as well.
Well,
so to our
cheers.
Guests,
yeah.
And to everyone else joining us tonight, whatever you're drinking tonight, please put it in the chat, and we'll just kind of roll with the punches. Cheers, y'all.
Yeah, let us know what all you guys are drinking too. It's always fun to hear. Some people come in, they watch a show, they're drinking water. Some of them are drinking beer, wine, all kinds of stuff. Is it good?
Is really good. This is smooth. This is dangerously smooth.
Ooh, nice.
Dang. I can definitely taste. It definitely tastes like rice for sure.
Does it really?
Yeah,
interesting.
You can taste the rice, and almost like watered down rice with alcohol.
All right, then.
I like it. I like it. This is great.
A little rice water. All right.
A little rice water.
Fair enough.
So tonight, our special guest, James, is gracious enough to spare his time to talk with us about being a broker. What it means to be a broker. Why do we have brokers? What's the pros, the cons, the advantages? And James, if you could start off by introducing essentially who you are, a little bit of a background, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I've been in the real estate business now for 20 plus years. Started kind of heading a family investment group, and that morphed into I wound up handling all the sales for the investment group, and we were doing flips, we were doing speculation, we were doing a lot of different stuff, and that pushed me into. Then the downturn happened, and our money was tied up in investments, and I shifted with our money sitting there cooking.
You talking about back in 2008?
Yeah. So
yeah.
I wound up shifting, and just honestly completely focusing on the retail side. I was doing retail before that, but with our investments kind of frozen in place, I wound up really sticking to the retail side of things. And, that's kind of how things got started for me in the business. Christine got in the business with me pretty quickly. She started off as like an assistant and quickly got licensed. And then we were kind of off to the races.
And you guys have been working as a team pretty much since she got her license. I mean, when did she get her license?
We've been a team for more than 15.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah,
because you've been an agent for 18 years right now, or actually more than that now.
Something like that. So, yeah, I mean, we've been doing it a minute, and definitely did not get into the brokerage things very intentionally. It was weird kind of how it all happened. It's funny. I don't really, don't get into it with people too much, but I did not want this.
Really?
Yeah, you did it because we were Century 21 for at least the first 2.5, if not 3 years of you opening the brokerage. And that was your first brokerage, right?
So became a broker and immediately opened up Alton Clark Realty. And what wound up happening is, it's weird. So one of the first brokerages I worked at was run by a buddy of mine. It was an exit brokerage.
Okay.
They were bought out by the Coldwell Banker brokerage that I left him to go work for.
Oh.
Exit Coldwell, and the Coldwell bought the exit. Well, when the Coldwell bought the exit, it was a hostile takeover. And I knew everyone in exit and I knew everyone in Coldwell. And it was a hostile takeover. And everyone heard that I had just got my broker's license. And it was honestly supposed to be me, Christine, and one assistant. That was it. That's why, Chris, I chose the office that we did, because it was just supposed to be me and Christine and a small team.
Yeah, because it was literally as narrow as this.
Yeah,
as this window screen when I first got started.
Yeah. So what happened was everybody that was at exit didn't want to go to Coldwell, and they were being forced to. And they called me and they're like, "Hey, can we come join you?" And I'm like, and they were good friends of mine, and I'm like, I couldn't say no. I just said yes, and then it quickly went from me and Christine to like 10 people, and I'm like, well, crap, now I gotta put together systems and crap, and then another funny thing happened. Not funny because this really screwed things up. My dad retired, and he hadn't been retired a year, and he calls me up one day. He's like, "Dude, I'm bored out of my mind.
No.
Can I come help you? Can I just come screw around?" Mind you, my dad, he ran a very successful finishing business in town. And I'm like, "Dude, I don't know what you're going to do. I got nothing for you. You're used to making big 6-figure money." He's like, "I'll just come play. I'll just come hang out."
Right.
And I'm like, "All right, fine. You can do recruiting." Right. And I didn't think much of it. And, we went from 10 agents to 50, like overnight. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm like, shit, I'm in trouble. Because I did not want, I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't want it. I didn't want this.
Wow.
It was not.
Did you not want it just because it seemed like it was just going to be too much work? Just, take too much of your time and
too much time and not make the money.
Yeah.
Real estate brokerages don't make the money people think they do.
Really?
Oh yeah.
No,
that's
absolutely.
a fact.
Not. Your standard profit margin is like 10%. So people have no concept of like being a broker and that it's cool. And I'm a broker because I didn't have the guts to say no to everybody. And I wanted to protect people that were my friends.
Well, aren't I lucky?
Well, seriously, I'm being serious. Like I didn't, I can tell you straight up, I did not want this. And a big part of me, I mean, you guys know in my past, I was a law enforcement officer, and, I'm very much about brotherhood and family and taking care of people. And I just didn't, there was no, I wasn't knowing me, and there should have been. So I had to immediately kind of shift gears and say, all right, well, damn, and my dad, what am I going to do? Fire my dad?
Right. He's bringing in all these agents for you, and you're like, oh crap.
I found myself in a trick box. I really did.
Yeah.
And, year 2, we're at 100 agents, and I'm like, oh God, now we're in trouble. So,
man.
Yeah, it's not what people think. It's not sexy. It's not, really, the profitability isn't high. The liability is very high. And the draw on one's time is really exponential. I can't put into words how much that takes, from me. And that's not,
I can imagine.
I love doing it. Don't get me wrong. Like I love doing it. Like, especially with guys like you guys, I love doing it. But, when you're running a business and you're watching your time and you're looking at accountable time and profitability and everything else, you start to quickly realize this is not what I should be doing. But find your niche. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you got 100 agents.
Yeah.
You got offices. You got all this stuff. Like, what are you going to do? And what's funny is my buddy that sold out his brokerage. That's why he got out. That's why he got out. That's why he sold out. Because he realized it quickly. So, yeah, it's weird.
And when did you open Alton Clark? Was it 2015 or 2014? 14. So I came into the business in 2015. And like it was your systems and it was your camaraderie, it's your family that really just kind of brought me into play. And from there, you blossomed into this beautiful butterfly. So you got two brokerages now. You got 2 offices.
I'm a butterfly.
You got 3 offices total. You are very professional, sir. You got 1 in New Smyrna, you got 1 in Altamont Springs, and you got 1 in Fruitland Park, which is by the Leesburg area.
Yep.
Even to this day, when you didn't want to open this much or didn't want it to be what it is, why are you still expanding? Like,
great question.
What's the goal now? What's the goal
question.
now?
I have no answer for that. I struggle with it daily. I struggle with it daily because, there's a lot of things that I do behind the scenes that, that you guys don't see. I got my hands in a lot of other things. I'm still an investor. I still have projects going on. I still have a lot going on. But there's a certain part of me that, so many people like you guys have become family, and then a certain amount of people, become reliant on them. Like I'm not failing them. And then there's that the adage, well, hell, if you're not growing, you're dying. And, I'm constantly in a state of flux. But I do know this, the real estate brokerage will never go away. Like it'll never go away. It'll probably stay at the core of my focus till my kids are out of high school. So probably another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Jared, count your days because that's about 4 years.
Well, but here's my hope. My hope is that guys like you, I can become partners with, and that's honestly that's probably the only reason I've held on, is trying to find the right combination of people that you trust, that you can become business partners with. And I just be a shareholder, a fly on the wall, a part of the equation, but that I step back from the brokerage eventually and have others that want to run, because I'll be honest with you, and I'm sure you guys can appreciate, when you run at 100 miles an hour, your RPMs are high. You can only take that for so long.
Yeah.
And if you're smart, you find people that are as good or better than you, and you bring them into the mix. So, I'm always looking to see what's next. We will evolve in some way, shape, or form. How much I'm out in front, I don't care to be out front. It doesn't matter to me. Alton Clark is an homage to my grandfather. That's where Alton comes from. This isn't this isn't me. This is my brother, my dad, my wife, you guys. I'm just as content with. I'm more business minded. I love the backside of all of it, and that's where I'd love to spend my time and focus and
development of everything.
Yeah, my gosh, I could blow this thing up. I didn't have to, if I didn't have to be like the CEO and down to the janitor, I do all those roles, and that's not the way to do it.
That just comes with running a business, and to that point, kind of like what Chris was asking. The people that are, creating their own businesses and trying to, you don't create a business just to plateau, to grow it a little bit and then plateau. You're always in that, how do I grow it? How do I get it bigger? So I see exactly where you're coming from, because I've been there and done that. I've started some, businesses in the past, and it's, like I said, you don't start it just to plateau and just,
run it until you die. You pretty much get it to a sustainable level to where it runs itself, and then you just kind of sit back and reap the benefits, and you can work on to your next project.
But that takes, to get it to that level though, that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, and a lot of people don't realize, patience. A lot of people don't realize what somebody who has gotten it to that level, they don't realize what it, the sacrifices that it's, that the owner, the CEO, the person that started it has gone through to get there. They just see the end result and they're like, oh, well, that's nice. That was, he's there. He's, he made it look easy, which is, not an easy thing to do, but for, and my compliments to James, because I see him running around all the time and doing all these things, and I'm just, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, man, there's no way I can do it. But he's the kind of guy that's going to be the go-getter. He's always out there. He's always, trying to drum up new business, whether it's getting into, like he used to do, investing or property management, all kinds of stuff. And it's just, man, I give you props, because I'm not there yet. I don't know that I could do what you're doing with the brokerage right now. I
don't know if you want to. That's one of the things that's kind of why I was curious when you guys asked me about this topic. I'm like, it'd be good for people to hear what this actually is, because it's not what you think it is. It's not.
Right.
I'll tell you this: profitability is higher as an agent, hands down.
Yeah.
Hands.
And the
down.
liability as a broker is significantly higher.
Right.
So James, since you brought that up, it's like, so what is a broker versus an agent, and why are they a thing? Why are brokers?
Yeah. Why do we have brokerages? Why don't we just have agents out there representing, people buying and selling houses?
Yeah. Standards. The standards that are mandated is the system that was set up by the state. I'll give you a metaphor. It's kind of like the sheriff. So I used to be a deputy sheriff, right? So there's the sheriff, who's the chief law enforcement officer for the county. And then the deputies are vested with that person's authority to act on their behalf. But there has to be one person that's always held accountable. There always has to be one. One that has a higher level of training, accountability, education, to ensure that the likelihood of mistakes and errors are diminished. Take for example, let's say you have a new agent that comes in the business. They do not have the financial capabilities to have the insurance and the financial backing behind them. That hey, listen, we make a mistake. Can that new agent make someone whole? Can they withstand a lawsuit? And here's the thing, they don't even want the lawsuit. They don't want all that. So they want, it's all about standards and like, okay, we're going to hold the broker to this standard. So think about it like in law enforcement terms. Can you imagine if you're the sheriff and one of your deputies shoots someone accidentally? Like, oh man. So as the sheriff, what level of training and requirements are you going to put on someone if they're going to go out and tote a gun on your behalf? You're going to have strict standards, right? So, we've got, between the all of our companies, we've got like, 100, and we were upwards of 200 at one point in time.
Good God, did we really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Holy crap.
So if I've got 100 or 200 people running around that are transacting in one way, shape, or form or another, you would think that the standards should be pretty high, because who likes to be sued? Who likes mistakes to be made? So it's all about providing the consumer a higher level of protection,
accountability too.
Yeah, it's just there's so much that goes into it, man. There really is.
Would you say that it's also a form of tracking on a statistical level, making sure people are practicing lawfully, and just kind of a broader system, like almost like kind of like a pyramid? At the top, you have NAR, you have the National Association of Realtors, and then it breaks down to a state level and then a regional level. And then the brokers is pretty much the one step above the actual agent themselves.
Yeah, so it's another form of government, Chris. It's bureaucratic layers, and ultimately it's accountability, right? That's what it's all about. It's accountability and ensuring a certain standard is met, maintained, so that they understand that if you're going to hire a real estate agent, a realtor, that there's a certain standard that you can expect, and you can expect that they're being supervised. You can expect that they're being held accountable. You can expect that, hey, listen, there's someone else. If this agent makes a mistake, there's someone else I can go to that that either has the education or the financial resources behind them to be able to correct that issue.
So when you hire that agent, you're not just hiring that agent. You're actually hiring the brokerage who contracts with that agent.
That's cool.
So that's something to be said when you're looking for an agent. Make sure first you want to make sure that they're a good agent, they're going to do a good job, but then also look at what brokerage they work for, because that's going to tell you what kind of resources they have, what kind of backing they have. And I can tell you with Century 21 Alton Clark, the amount of training that I've received, as far as, my photography, my video skills all came from James Clark. I went on several photo shoots.
Second.
Yeah.
Right?
So
I got all my. Everyone loves my marketing. And I can
you guys have taken. You've taken the ball and run with it, which is what you want to see happen. You've taken.
Right.
I took you to here, and then you went to here.
Right.
And no different than with contracts or analysis or
right.
Like I got you to here, and then you both, and that's why you're both successful.
But a lot of agents don't have that. They don't have that broker that's going to take the time to show them, to get them to here, so they can excel to up higher. So
let me interrupt you there. So that I want to make a really good point there.
Yeah,
there's a reason behind that, and anybody watching that, and I hate to say this because it sounds really bad. Some people don't get that from their brokers. Just some people didn't get it from me.
Right.
You have to be worth it.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair. I mean, that's a fair statement.
5% interest.
Seriously, like you have to be worth it. You have to be worth the investment. You have to be worth it on many levels, right? On a personal level, on a professional level. Like if someone's going to invest their time in you, like, and I don't like saying it in this way because it sounds arrogant as hell, but like the time I spend with, like, let's say Chris and I, okay, the time I spend with Chris, it's more profitable for me to spend that time doing my own thing than to help Chris, even though Chris and I have a great business partnership.
Of course.
The reason I do it is because Chris actually, and so do you, Jared, you guys take the time we spend together and you do something with it. And truly that's what I care most about. It's there's money is always involved, but what you don't want to do is give your time and energy to someone and watch it be wasted. And that's what I mean by you got to be worth it. You've got to be a good person. You've got to want the help. You've got to do something with the help. And then what everybody expects, and you guys know this in your lives, if you help someone, you want to get them to here, but then you want to see them keep going.
Exactly. Well,
doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like your kids. I mean, you want to help them, but you want to see them like take off.
Exactly.
So it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I don't do it for any other reason other than, and that's why when I assess who I dive into and who I help, and I look at like, all right, is this person worth the time 2 years from now? Is this person worth the time 6 months from now? And I hate to say it that way because it sounds bad, but a tip to agents watching, like, be valuable and in some way, shape, or form, like just be valuable and
apply.
That's it. Like do something. Understand that help isn't free. And people think like, oh, if you're the broker, you're making money. Like, nah, it's not about money. You can't afford it. Like, no, that's not what it's about. You've got to, there has to be something more. Like Chris and I like became brothers instantly. And Jared, you were the same way. Like there's got to be more in order for you to truly get like the help and support and time that you're looking for. There's got to be a personal relationship, a business relationship. They got to do something with it. And then when you do that, and then if you don't get the help, then run like hell.
But then to that point though, I mean, I get what you're saying, but there are some brokerages where the broker himself or whoever's running it, they don't have the tools to show new agents all this stuff. They just say, hey, come to my brokerage. So, I mean, well, we talked about commissions on our last show, and there's a lot of different commission structures. And some of the brokerages, you get 100% commission. But guess what? You're not going to get a whole lot of support and, help from your broker. I mean, you might be able to give them, send them an email and get a response back in a day or two, but you're not going to go on photo shoots. You're not going to get the level of training and all that kind of stuff that you get at other brokerages. So that's why I say when you're hiring an agent, yes, you have to interview the agent, but also do some research about the actual brokerage that they are associated with. See what kind of support they're going to have. See what kind of training they've had, things like that. So,
and we get our training from the broker. Like there's a lot of false expectations that brokers are supposed to be there for me. They're supposed to do this for me. They're supposed to like do everything for me. It's just like, that's not the case. Like your broker is there to make sure that one, you don't do anything stupid, but two, to provide you the tools. Here are your tools. Make sure you have to try it. And if something you don't understand, go back. And that's one thing when I learned.
I knew it was going to happen.
But yeah, Chris. What Chris well, hopefully he unfreezes here. What he's saying is exactly how I view it. Like my job is a support. My job is to set you up. My job is to be the keep you in bounds, but you're the one on the field. You're the one that has to play the game. And I think so many people don't understand, like, you're a independent business owner.
You are.
I'm not your boss. I'm not the broker's not the boss. The broker's the one responsible. That doesn't mean they're your boss. Like,
right.
I don't ever treat anyone that way, talk to anyone that way.
Right.
Like, this is his own man. You're your own man. Like, you have to behave that way. And that's why most agents fail, is they don't understand that I have to be my boss and an agent. I have to be a business. I have to be a CEO and an agent.
Let's dive into that for a second, because I don't think most people know that myself and Chris as agents, we're not employed by Century 21 Alton Clark.
No, we're not employees. We're contractors.
We're independent contractors. So we get a 1099, and with just like any other contractor out there, I mean, we pick our own hours, we work what we want. James doesn't call us and say, "Hey, where's that report? I need it on Monday.
Yep.
If you don't have it, you're fired."
That's right.
Now, I mean, there are things that he can terminate our contract if we're not, doing the right thing and stuff like that. But just take that, and because like I said, a lot of people don't understand that we're not actual employees of the brokerage. We are contractors. So it's not a traditional kind of company that you think about. Agents aren't getting health benefits through the brokerage. They're not getting other types of retirement benefits. Nothing like that. So,
and they need to keep that in mind. Not to cut you off, Jared. Sorry, but they need to keep that in mind when they question commissions.
Correct.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
They're like, they think we spend 5 minutes and we make all this money, but they don't understand what all goes into this, and they don't understand how you are truly on your own. You're an island. You got to provide for yourself in every way, shape, and form. Yeah. They don't understand. They just think, I don't know what they think, but they don't understand the weight of, let's say, having to pay for your own insurance and to deal with all of your own expenses, and truly be a business owner and yet be a contractor at the same time.
Exactly.
Fine line.
And we talked about that on the last episode. I'll put a link, if you're watching it on YouTube, I'll put a link up in the top, I think it's on the top right corner. It'll be a link to the commissions episode where we kind of dive into, we did a breakdown of what you're paying out, and then how that gets broken down, gets paid to the broker, gets paid to the agent, and then what the agent is actually doing with it. So I'll put a link up there for it when we get done.
And a big part too, just to kind of go back to why the broker exists, it's also about the barrier of entry into this business. So, for example, when you come into this business, Chris couldn't afford a copier. Chris couldn't afford, all of the other ancillary things that he needed to do business. As a new agent, I mean, Chris came in very humbly, and now he's a rock star. But you got to ask yourself the question, would Chris Noon be Chris Noon today if he didn't have someone else fronting those fees, because he was a young man, but young guy, so trying to make his way, and needed someone to front all those expenses so that he could get in with a low barrier of entry financially, get in, make his way, and then get to a point where he can sustain himself. So
it's a very true story, because in the very beginning, like, I wasn't selling a lot of homes. I didn't know what I was really doing. I did enough to pass the real estate exam, and that was it. And like, the real world experience versus the actual school and exams are entirely different worlds. And so, like, having that broker is helpful, but having the appropriate broker is even more helpful. I interviewed 8 brokerages before I chose one.
Wow, I think,
And it was broker number 3 until I realized that I'm the one that interviewed, not the broker interviewing me.
Yes.
So, I don't think I met you on the first interview, James.
I think you met Senior. Yeah, I think you met him.
No, I sat with
Brian. That's right.
Sat with Brian.
That's right.
And so it's kind of wild when you're an agent, you're like trying to find the right broker for you. You need to make sure you set proper expectations and don't really believe the 100% brokerages, and for them to just give you leads.
You can't believe, Chris, you can't believe anything anyone says. Like, people, the things that brokers do and say are so unscrupulous. You have to, 2 + 2 = 4, right? Like, you gotta, like, I see these people, they bring in letters and they go, "Hey, can you match this?" And I got a letter from another Century 21 firm. I won't name names, but it says, I guarantee you $100,000 salary in your first year in the business if you join our firm.
Bullshit.
And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, how could you possibly guarantee that?
The only person that will be able to get $100,000 in their first year is the actual agent themselves applying and taking the initial steps and processes to be able to get to that level. Like, right. I mean, that's insane. It took me damn near 7 years to break that. So,
and so should
it's a long time.
So should it? Like, it's supposed to take you that long. So for anyone to say that it's insanity. That's why there's a lot of, but new agents, listen, they're just focused on money. They're focused on like, what are the splits? And that's it. They're not looking at, they don't understand like the grind. Quality. They don't understand what it really takes. And I mean, think about it, guys. Like, think about Jared. Jared's a pilot. Like, the level of training and experience and the years that it takes to do that is unbelievable. So for someone to walk in and think like, oh, I'm going to be a pilot first day, like, you're not even worthy of handing out peanuts right now. Like, you need to sit down and shut up. Like, seriously. But people think that, right? It's
more qualified to hand out peanuts.
If they're like, oh, I'm going to be a pilot the first day, like,
just no way. Yeah. You're going to pull up on that thing until it just goes straight up and down. That's it. That's for sure.
And it's no different. It's no different. It takes time, Chris. You know it.
James, how does one become a broker? What are the qualifications to become a broker?
So, I mean, the standard's it's not high enough. And I think that's a big problem that gives people the illusion that this is something sexy to do. I mean, I think all you have to have is your license for 2 years. You got to take, state approved courses. Then you got to take the state test. The state test is hard, but 2 years, really? 2 years? That's insane.
No, I mean, I'm hitting my 2 year mark now, and I mean, could I do it? Sure. Do I want to do it? No. I mean, every day there's stuff that I'm learning. I mean, I just did a closing a deal earlier today. I was talking to James about, and just, I mean, learning stuff about how people. It's not just. So here's the thing: when it comes to all these deals, it's not just about the contracts. It's not just about all the legalities and the money. You got to learn how people react, and you got to learn what people are going to do and how to handle those actual situations. And guess who I turn to when, on this one, I was able to get through it, but there's been times in the past where I'm like, okay, I've got all the paperwork down, but hey, I call up James. I'm like, hey man, how do I handle this situation? These people that are, having issues or whatever the case is, this has nothing to do with, the paperwork. This just has to do with personalities and things, and the person itself. So it's that experience that you get, over time is priceless in my opinion.
Yeah. And I've been at this for damn near 7 years now, and I just had to ask for James' advice just the other day, like earlier this week. And so, like, you don't get that by being a broker after 2 years.
No.
Right.
You don't get that, especially when the first agent the first year makes less than $12,000 in their first year. Less than $12,000 total for the whole year, less than $12,000. Right. And then add that 2 years, it only goes up a certain percentage. More than 80% of the buyers drop out within the first 2 or 3 years. So it's just like, how is this person supposed to be a broker now at this point?
Yeah,
you can't able to do that. You can't. The experience only comes from closing deals, and only closing deals.
It's not just that, Chris. It's like, I was in this business for more than a decade before I got my broker's license, but I was a law enforcement officer for 15 years before that. So the problem resolution, the people skills, and all of that. Add another 15 years onto that, and that is, Jared, you just said it. That is equally as important in being a broker as the actual real estate skill set itself.
Right.
So, for anyone to think that, oh, I've been in the business 5 years, or I've been in the business 3 years, like, man, you've got. Look, can you become a broker and do your own thing? Sure. should you become a broker and lead and supervise people? Hell no. Like no. I mean, think of the arrogance of it.
Yep.
That like, okay, like for instance, Jared, like this man's an accomplished pilot and has got extensive experience in his background. Like, okay, so you're gonna help him and your experience is what? And same goes for Chris. Like if you don't have like substantial guys, like I've made life and death decisions, and that's why I'm able to very quickly make assessments and make decisions, because I've had not just thousands of real estate deals, but thousands of life and death type scenarios where I have to make decisions, and that's just as important as the real estate.
It 100%.
That's wild.
And so I mean, we were talking about you can get your broker license. You can take your test after you've had it for 2 years. And so is there any advantage to being a what's called a broker associate? So essentially what that means is, an agent after 2 years, they can go take their broker license. They're not starting a brokerage, but they're continuing to work for a brokerage, and now they become a broker associate. So what if somebody is coming to if I'm going on a listing appointment and, somebody I'm going to talk to somebody and I tell them I'm a broker associate, what does that mean to somebody listing a house or buying a house?
They won't have a clue, but you're going to have to explain it to them. And what I would say is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what you're getting with me, most of the people you're talking to or have talked to are real estate agents or realtors. I'm actually a broker associate. What that means is I bring a higher level of skill set, expertise, experience, and accountability to the business. And what that means for you is more money, smoother deal, and somebody that's got a broader depth and scope of experience that you're going to be able to lean upon. So what you get is, maybe a Porsche versus a Honda Accord, and they cost the same amount of money. They cost the same amount of money. Like, I mean, the commissions don't change per se from broker associate to real estate agent. So you're getting more bang for your buck. And along those lines is how I'd articulate it.
Right.
So why should someone get their broker associates or even a broker's license?
Well, what I would say to you is before you go pulling that trigger, understand why you're doing it. Like, for instance, like Chris, if you were really leaning hard on going commercial, why would you get your broker's license? Like, go get a commercial.
Yeah, it would make no sense.
Go get CCIM, right? Like, so I think people need to understand like what they're trying to accomplish in the real estate business. And if you're, let's say, strictly in the retail side of things, it's the equivalent of another designation, in my opinion. It's like GRI, ABR, all that stuff. It's you bringing a higher level of training and advancement. Now, what I can tell you is having it speeds up future opportunities for you. So, for instance, like if, let's say, Chris, you had your broker associate and, an opportunity came up and to run an office, let's say, and let's say you came to me and said, hey, listen, I want to try my hand at running an office. Let's do this. And bang, you're ready. Like, it's like, all right, cool. Secure the office and you're planted and it's done. Right. So you're able to transition faster if that's something that you want to do down the line. But I can tell you, like, nobody should even really remotely consider it until they are killing it as an agent and for years on end. It's like
on a very frequent basis, no roller coaster shit. So
no roller coaster nonsense. Like, because when you make that transition, like, here's a well-known fact. You'll spend at minimum $150,000 to $200,000 minimum financially setting up a real estate brokerage. Like,
how much?
150 to 200 grand minimum.
Jeez.
Cash money, guaranteed. So if and be prepared for no different than anything else. Like if Jared switched and went out of residential into commercial, down goes his residential business. So now he's got a dip in income until he, sets his feet. So there's so much that people got to think about that, if you're going to do this, you really I was taken back by the amount of money I had to pour in and keep pouring in. It's like, oh damn, like another check.
I would imagine, James, in the very beginning when you started this brokerage, that it was a deficit year over year before it became actually lucrative.
Yeah, of course.
So, what are some things that you looked for in an agent? Like, and then is there a difference between quantity over quality?
So how many agents do you have right now?
Between everything, we probably got 100.
100?
Between the three. I know every couple of years you do a culling. And
every year
you do a culling.
Every year.
So
again, December.
So again, why do you hire a plethora and then fire a plethora? Why is there quantity versus quality for some of these brokers?
So first thing I would say is I wouldn't necessarily call it firing. I would say that we don't match and that you probably need another opportunity.
This is true because we're not employees.
That's right.
You can sever that tie really easy.
Right. I kind of put it back on the person. The only time I flat terminate agreements is when I catch people doing things that are unlawful, unethical, and that unfortunately happens way too often.
Really?
I see it all the time, man.
Oh my God.
Really?
You have
Jared, the longer you get into this, the easier it becomes to see. And you can see the writing on the wall just through an email sometimes.
It's nauseating. it's
kind of wild.
Chris has seen in some of it up close and personal because he's had to help cover for some people.
Oh, wow.
They still have their license to this day and they shouldn't. But I'll tell you this.
Quality over quantity.
Chris, you can't predict who's going to be a success. You just can't. I have had the Six Sigmas, doctors, lawyers, everything in front of me, and you're like, oh man, this person's going to be amazing.
Right.
And then,
pilots.
I have a young kid like you that was a sound designer prior, and I'm like, man, I don't know what's the deal with this guy. There is no putting your finger on who's going to be a success. So there's a hybrid of quantity versus quality. It's trial by fire, and you have to watch how people handle the fire. And then when you watch them go through that crucible, you watch them deal with adversity, then you go, okay, now I know that person's going to be a success. Because I've pegged people that, mentally I'm like, there's no way they'll make it, and they kill it. And then I've pegged people like, oh, they're going to be a superstar, and they bomb. So, it's still to this day. I guess right a lot. I guess wrong a lot. And, you just don't know what's in someone's heart. And you also
how much they're willing to endure.
Oh my gosh. You've been through it, but here's the thing too. You don't know what's going to go on in their personal lives too.
Yeah,
and so many people, they're great agents and they have horrible personal lives, right? They make horrible family decisions, horrible decisions, period. And then that turn affects their business life. And then now someone that could have been made $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year as an agent fails out of the business because they're doing some stupid crap in their personal life that, you didn't see coming when you first met. You had no idea.
So would you advocate for the average agent or maybe the top elite agent to become a broker? Is it really just like what you said earlier? It's just, what are your goals?
Yeah, I think it needs to line up with what your future goals are. And, what I can tell you is if you're about profit and profitability, again, I didn't do this because I wanted to. It just happened. So you have to be, if you're more of a teacher than a doer, become a broker. But understand, like, truly do your homework on what profit margins are for brokerages and what startup costs are for brokerages and what the liability is. And, you've got to be willing to withstand all that. And if you like real estate, the agent level is far more profitable. And I think what you need to do is you need to have a pretty good amount of time in this business and erase all the roller coaster, financial cyclical cycles. Then when you've done all that, Then you've got to look at the long term of, all right, do I want to eventually teach and not sell? And then let me tell you, that is one of the most difficult things, to spend time on people and invest in people and watch it all be for nothing.
Yep.
Watch them turn on you, watch them do illegal crap, watch them just make dumb decisions with their lives. And you're sitting here going, man, I put so much into you.
Yep.
And it's all gone. And
oh yeah.
You don't put into someone. I don't invest into Chris for what his contract says for this year. Right. I would never do that. Like, I would say, bye-bye. Like, no, I invest my time in Chris because I'm banking on a long-term relationship. If this was invested time on the contractual obligations of we have an agreement for a year. No, hell no. No, nobody would do that. Nobody would take and roll the dice.
No smart broker would do that either.
Well, no business person would. Like, really?
No. No business person. 100%.
No, that's stupid. I'm going to go teach you how to go do this, and then you're going to go run off and like, do you know how many people, like the majority of people, like that you spend all this time into, and then they're like, all right, I'm just going to go run off over here and do my own thing. And meanwhile, when you look at the accountable time you've put into them versus what you made, you're like, oh my God, I should never teach anybody to do this. I should just do my own thing. And your profitability is so much higher. And you got to understand too, you're building the competitive workforce. So you're building your own competition. Yeah. You're building, like, some of the people that are no longer with us that I've had to fire or they've left or whatever the case may be, they're now competition for you too.
Right. Yeah.
Trained them. I showed them the ropes.
You know what's funny though is that, like, I don't care about competition. Like, there's some agents that care about competition. They follow particular people and they're like, F that guy, F that woman. Like, screw them. They're pieces of shit. But it's just like, for me, I was like that in my early years, and it was so toxic to my own just mental being and as an agent. And it's where I'm just like, now I'm just like, good for them. Like, where money in real estate is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Money is always to be made. If you focus on yourself and your quality and what your image is and what your standard is, like, I don't know if you guys can see it on your screen, but I have 3 awards for quality service. Oh, I'm sorry, a 4th one right here for this past year. If I worry about myself, you're going to do well. And
hold on, like, let's get Chris up on the big screen because I really want to see him show off all his awards here.
You just got a new one today.
I have another one. I got another one. I just got this one. Hold on.
Pull that puppy out.
This one right here.
So there it is.
He's got another one coming. That should probably be here tomorrow or the next day.
I hope so. It's a badass one. Like, so this one right here is an accompany to these other ones right here for quality service. 2018, 19, 20.
That's Pinnacle,
21.
right, Chris?
Yes,
one in your hand Pinnacle. So it's a higher level. Like, you have to be consistently a badass at customer service for years before you hit Pinnacle.
Yes, and like, I know, like, it's hard to see because it's all glass, but there's 2 right here and there's 2 there's a certificate behind each and every single one of these. So, like, I stopped worrying about other people and started worrying about how I do business. And you learn a lot from your what's the term, like, successors, like, I guess, like, for James, like, really helping me out with that. So, like, to be a broker, you have to be an educator. You have to enjoy educating to do that. But the only thing is, like, for me as an agent, I have to do that myself. And the thing is, like, I have mentees now. I don't go helping them. I don't go out of my way until that person comes to me and shows forth the effort. Like my mentee, Shane, year 1, that boy already won an award because he was the go-getter. He was there. He was present. And so, like, now I have other mentees, and the same thing applies. I'm not going to you. I'll answer your phone. I'll answer every time you call. But I'm not going to look for you. I'll give you everything you need, but you have to come to me. That's it.
You also have to humble yourself too. Like Chris, that's one of the things that Chris did well. He was humble, and there were some tight moments.
The chip moment. The chip. Talk about the chip. Talk about the chip.
Yeah, funny story. Chris threw a poker chip at me because he got pissed because I
it was a deal. It was a deal, and it was a room full of gentlemen. We made deals. We made chips, and I decided not to come in. And James called me out, as he should have, and I threw that chip right across his face into where the bucket was, and he's like, "Everyone, meeting now." And I'm like, as soon as I threw it, I knew it was the biggest mistake of my life.
Was awesome.
Dude, I thought it was getting cut.
That was priceless. That was priceless. Yeah. So a little backstory.
That's hilarious.
There was a jar, and if you were late, you had to put in a chip, and the chips were worth money.
Yes.
So like literally, if you put in a chip, that could be worth $50. It could be worth $100. It could be $200. And every chip was sequentially higher and higher. So if you screwed up, like now you're paying into it's a chip, but it's worth $50, $100, $200. And Chris had a hard time waking up, prior to meeting his lovely wife and having a stable life and everything else. Chris was a little, let's say, rambunctious, and he would show up late every now and again. And as soon as he walked in the door, we're like, "Chip, bro, like, let's go, chip it up." And he just grabbed that thing and didn't even look and shucked it and literally like right by my face. And I'm like, okay. But in seriousness,
this guy has something.
But in seriousness, like, if Chris wasn't willing to take that, and Chris knows there were people in that room. Nah, it's all good, bro. But here's the thing, Chris, there were people in that room that didn't have the stomach to take that, right? And you witnessed some of those moments, right?
I did.
Those were tense moments where people did not. Most people, and I commend you on that, Chris. That's something you did really well, and you still to this day do. You have to humble yourself.
Yeah.
Look, if I can't tell you what you're doing wrong and not have you get all offended and butthurt over it, like I'm just going to stop telling you, right? Like if it's pistols at high noon every time I say something to you, then I'm just going to stop saying it. And that doesn't help you. You don't grow if you're not looking at like, all right, how am I really failing here? Because most people, they're not good CEOs. They're not good bosses to themselves. And it takes time. And so if you're lucky, you have someone that, and it's no easy thing for a stranger to do. I had to be friends with Chris. I look at him as my little brother. And if I didn't have that relationship with him, I wouldn't have said those things to him. I just said, whatever, bro. I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have said chip. I wouldn't have said crap. I let him bomb.
And that's one thing I've always realized is when people just kind of play it off, they don't really say anything, or they don't criticize, or I say criticize, I should say critique, things. And to me, it's like, okay, I see where we stand. You don't care. You don't, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth your time for you to critique me. So it's one of those things, just like what James was saying. He felt like he could critique you, Chris, and so it's.
I mean, he did it to everyone. And the thing is, like, he did it everyone on purpose to see who would be willing to take the hits, who can roll with the punches. And if you can roll with the punches, you're like, okay. That's how James was. He was like, okay. And then he would just keep going. He'd keep going. He like, what's your threshold? And that was the coolest thing, because like I knew I had fucked up as soon as I threw that chip. But as soon as we sat down in the conference room, I was just like, I need to apologize to everybody in this room for the disrespect that it just displayed. So like that's the humility that comes with like mentorship.
Yeah, you gotta have
success.
You gotta have it. That you're not. Here's the thing, like, and you know this, Chris. Like, whenever you want to get to a certain level, let's say financially, you have to surround yourself with someone that's at that level. And then take what they give you, because like, for instance, for my son is a baseball player. So I was a Division I baseball player. Like I've been where he wants to go. So I already know the steps. So if I'm going to spend my time on him, why would I tell him steps that'll sabotage him? I'm telling him the steps he needs to take, things he needs to avoid to get to that point. And the same thing goes for you guys. Like Chris, you want to get to 200 grand, 300 grand, 400 grand, 500 grand. Guess what? I've hit all those stops, right? Like I'm blessed. I've hit all those stops. So I know like, here's what you need to avoid. Here's how hard you need to push. So, that's, you've got to find that. And then you got to be willing to shut up and listen. If you actually want to get there, it may not be as easy as you think.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So talking about, I mean, we've talked about like what a brokerage is, why it's here. how it employs agencies. So, I mean, there's been through COVID, I mean, James, you've seen quite a bit in your 20 plus years in the industry, not just as a broker, but coming up through as an investor, being an agent, and then apparently accidentally kind of getting yourself into, being a broker and turning it into a brokerage. So what do you see for the future of real estate? I mean, as far as, there's always uncertainty. There's always, nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows what the hell is going to happen. But right now, a lot of people are advocating, it's like, oh, we're in a housing bubble. James, you and I were talking about it before we went on tonight. But, a lot of people are talking about, it's like there's a housing bubble and everything. And when's it going to pop? And when's things going to collapse? We're going to have another downturn. So, from your perspective as a broker, what is the future of a brokerage? Is this still going to be something that's a viable thing? Are you pivoting to other avenues to sort of offset the fact that brokerages may not be as successful in the future?
Jared, one question at a time.
I know. I just asked like a 30-minute question, but
no, they're all good. So great question. So there's never been a more turbulent time in real estate than now. COVID has changed the game. It's gone very virtual. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it was. I think I'm not too worried about the housing bubble because the last bubble was manufactured, right? It was through poor lending practices and things like that. People have wealth in their homes right now. So I don't see a bubble happening. I see a financial crisis happening, but I don't see it in real estate. Values are going to hold their head. I don't worry about that. Do I worry about the volume of people? All you got to do is look at the behavior, look at what's happened. Mm-hmm. So, in these last several years, the volume of crowdfunding and people that have come into this business with horrendous business models. Look at what Zillow did. Zillow, of all places, came in and just did stupid stuff. And then bang, they have to shut their doors on that chapter of their business. People are coming in and throwing money at the problem. Look at the WeWorks and all these just crazy business models where they're like, you know what, let me come in. I'm going to do everything for free. I'm going to buy up market share. And then when everyone else goes out of business, then I'll be the last game in town. So that's going to change the way brokerages operate. You're going to see things go far more virtual. I think there has to be that checks and balances. So that won't go away. But things are going to get far more virtual. Agent commissions are going to get diminished. Brokerage profitability is going to get diminished. You're going to see a lot more people expanding into ancillary businesses. Look, right now, there's a major lawsuit underway right now that is attacking the buyer agent commission. It never has real estate been under greater threat than it is right now. And I sincerely worry about what's going to happen. So for instance, on the buying side right now, they're literally suing. Sellers are suing, and they're really aiming at KW and Gary Keller primarily as the chief villain of this, that sellers shouldn't pay for buyer's agent commissions. And
why Gary Keller? That's very interesting.
Because the people suing happen to have Keller Williams as their broker. So the people that got pissed off, the agent was a KW agent. So
that's kind of makes sense because KW is notorious for just like building massive teams and
running a factory and a mill. And there's not a lot of, I'm not going to go smashing anybody, but
no. That's the point. That's not the point. But like, I was just kind of pointing us like, well, why them? She's like, well, they are like, they just take nothing but new agents. They have one of the best like training programs, but
it's a great company. It's a great company. They do a lot of good, but look, every company screws up and makes mistakes, and they're just, when you're as big as Century 21, KW, whatever, you're going to be a target.
Yeah, it's just news to me to see that KW is kind of like the front runner of this lawsuit versus as a general whole, which makes complete sense as a seller.
It's gonna affect the entire industry. So if this plays out the way they're hoping it does, it's going to impact everybody. It's going to stop. It will effectively put an end to sellers paying a buyer's agent commission, and that is going. That's going to crush buyer's agents.
Is this the lawsuit that's sort of stem from as a seller, why am I paying somebody to negotiate against me?
Yes.
Because I don't think a lot of people understand. Like, we talk about the lawsuits and we kind of know what it means and what it is, but I mean, if you think about it as a seller, you're paying.
It makes complete sense.
You're paying somebody to negotiate against you, and how much you pay them is kind of determine, how well they're going to negotiate against you. So,
and the reason for that is most people, when they're buying, look, 30% of transactions are first-time home buyers. Do you really think they have the financial capabilities to fund their own representation? So imagine what's going to happen to new people coming in. They're going to have no protection. They're going to have no guidance. They're not going to be able to afford to pay their own. So a lot of this, they're comparing us to what's going on in Europe and other places. They pay for, literally like 1%, 1.5%. And then there's no buyer's agent commission. And then that person buying the house is dealing directly with the listing agent. So it's the equivalent of you getting charged and talking to the prosecutor.
Correct.
I'm concerned at what it's going to mean, for people. You guys are both buying and selling agents, and we do a lot of work to protect people on the buy side. And I'm concerned what it's going to mean for the end consumer, because they're not going to pull any more money out of their pocket.
Well, no, I mean,
they can't.
You mentioned
no lender is going to finance that. No lender's going to finance that. So it's going to be
if it goes that way, though, that's going to have to change, and that might be one of the things that comes out of the lawsuit, because that money has to come from somewhere. So if you think about, I'm working with somebody right now. They're trying to buy something for $250,000. Their closing costs, their out of pocket is already $15,000, $16,000, between closing costs, down payment, and all that stuff, give or take. You want to tack on another 3%, 2.5% on top of all that. They're not going to have the money for that. So it's going to have to come from somewhere. Lenders are going to have to get creative. It's the same thing in the aviation industry. When one thing goes, other parts have to give. When one thing falls, something else comes up. So it's going to have to be the lender. It's going to have to come from somewhere. It's not just going to be, what do we do now?
If at all. I got to say, because there's a couple elements a part of this. And one of them is also, at least here in the state of Florida, and James, correct me, the listing agreement between the seller and the brokerage, because that's what the listing agreement is between the two. The first section is regarding the total commission that seller is willing to compensate a brokerage, and it's a total amount.
Right.
And then at the next section is the cooperation to another broker, a co-broker. And essentially, where in my understanding is that the agent has the authority to dictate how much that buyer's agent gets, as well as with the seller. Because how I structure my commissions is that my fee is 3.5%. I've said this many times on the show. My fee is 3.5%. What you're willing to pay for a buyer's agent is up to you, whether it be a flat rate or a percentage of that total. And that's what it dictates. That's what it comes down to, right there, of that total. And so essentially, if the listing agent or the listing brokerage agrees to a 3%, and then my total commission is 2.5%, then guess what? That I'm going to give that other agent 0.5%. Right. That's what they agree to. So James, does that kind of make sense? Am I kind of explaining like it a little in a complete way?
Let me ask this question before you answer that one. Are we gone from the days? So I understand like why we gave a buyer's commission. Why you had to make it 2.5%, 3%, because back in the day before 97% of the people that are looking, when they start looking for a home, they do it on the internet. So they're not even talking to an agent yet. So guess what? When I find a home on the internet, I'm going to call an agent. Oh, you don't want to show it to me because it's, 0.5%? Okay, I'll call the next one. Before, that used to be a thing because agents had a stack of papers, a stack of listings, and they saw, okay, here's here's all my 3% at the top. Here's all my 0.5% at the bottom. I'm going to show my client all the high paying ones first, and I'm going to show them the low paying ones at the end. But now I think we're kind of gone away from that, because as customers, they're looking on the internet and then they're just calling an agent. Can you show me this house? No, you can't. Okay. Hey, can you show me this house? No. Okay. Yeah, they'll find somebody that will do it. So
everybody's doing it.
Are we gone from the day where it really matters what you pay a buyer's agent? What do you think?
So I think that if we lose buyer's agents, I think the consumer's in for a big problem. I think that would be a catastrophe of the highest order. Think of all the young families that you've helped. Think of all the people that you've had to protect from making stupid decisions. Yeah. If that goes away or is diminished in any way, you are going to be stuck, with probably no representation or representation from the absolute bottom of the barrel, as it pertains to this industry. And think about it now. Think about like when the last crash happened, the volume of foreclosures and everything else. That's a heartbeat away from happening again. And if you have a scenario where people are being poorly informed, poorly guided, they're making bad decisions, they're getting themselves upside down, we're going to see another financial crisis in the real estate side of things. So, there's no good answer. I understand one side of the coin in that people like, well, I don't want to fund, the other side of the equation that's negotiating against me. I get all that. But on the flip side, like Chris said, there's no surprise. The seller knows what's up. They see it. They agree to it. There's no hiding any of this. And I think a lot of this is a byproduct of this is how the system allows the buyer agent commission to be financed. And if we change that, then it can't be financed unless lending practices then change and lenders allow it to be financed, which right now they flat don't. That's why it's rolled into the seller's side. Right. And how people are going to get around that, I don't know. But nothing is hidden. But I can tell you this: like listing agents, if it is diminished, they will be paying buyer's agents nothing or next to nothing. It'll look like the referral side of things on rentals. For people that don't know, like if you're going to rent a house and that agent's helping you, they're making like $50 or $100. And no, I'm not even going to put the keys in the ignition for $100.
No,
right?
No.
So
no,
we're under threat, and it makes all the sense. It really does. If you really take a step back, like I make sense why sellers don't feel like they should have to pay for an agent who is bidding against them. Like it really does. But the same token, it's just like I feel like these big tech companies, Redfin, Zillow, Opendoor, OfferPad, and so much more, where they're hiring agents who are essentially just hourly with benefits, and you're just a phone call away. Yeah, how can I help you today? Yeah,
and Chris, who are those agents? They were the failures.
They were the failures. Yes, they're 100% failures.
I probably shouldn't have said that, but I mean,
no, you're not wrong. It's the same thing for new construction agents. There's nothing against them, but they couldn't cut it out, or they did it for so long as their own boss that they were just like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go to something more stable, such as new construction, where people come to me.
And who do you think they represent?
The builder.
Like, damn right. So like, they're a fiduciary, right, for everybody. But who do you think? I mean, they know who writes the check. They're not stupid.
Yeah, like Redfin, it's just like I'm a buyer's agent, but I also work for Redfin, where they pay me hourly plus commissions when I close this deal. Yeah, if you pay $1,000 over more than list price, we'll be sure to get you under contract. You can't qualify? That's okay. We'll take your deposit. Thank you.
How many nights and weekends do you guys spend on the phone or on the computer and dealing with nonsense? Like that goes away. Like, let me tell you something, 9 to 5, don't bother me on nights and weekends.
Opendoor, forget it. You're not hearing shit. My inspection ends on a Saturday. You're not going to respond until Monday.
Yep.
You're effed. You're fucked.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. So talking about, Opendoor and all these iBuyer companies. So if you don't know what those are, they're basically they come in, sometimes they represent sellers, sometimes they just come in, they buy a house for a little bit cheaper. It's basically for somebody that doesn't want to deal with all the, they just need to get out of their house, and they get usually a cheaper offer, and it turns out to be not what you would get if you were to sell it with an agent. So you have these iBuyers, that are coming in with, like you said, with salaried agents. And I just recently worked with one. And again, just like you said, Chris, they don't work on the weekend. So it was through Open Door. I tried to get something done on the weekend. We were trying, I can't remember what we were trying to do, but it was something. I reached out to the agent or the agent. I don't know if it was, if they're what their status is, but yeah, no. Nothing on the weekend. I got a response back from one of the.
You're not gonna get it.
I got a response from a team member saying, "Hey, so and so will be back on Monday morning," and I was like, "Really? It's Saturday, 11 o'clock in the morning. I kind of need to know now, what."
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. I see these offer pack commercials all the time,
yeah.
and the agent or the actor says I used to be a realtor, and it's just oh God, you said realtor? That alone tells me you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, because
did you?
You were never an agent ever. And so I feel like we kind of transitioned to, just how things are right now.
Sorry.
Oh, well, cheers.
No
to
worries.
The refill.
I had to reload.
Cheers. Hey, that's fine.
Reload.
So we were just talking about things like Open Door and OfferPad and all these things. So, I mean, it's nonetheless, I don't like them. I don't think they're near as good as what an agent is, or good at all as what an agent's going to do. However, they are a threat to the real estate industry. They're a threat to brokerages. I mean,
they're lobbying. They're lobbying for it. The DOJ recently dropped the suit for something bigger. James, do you know anything about that further?
Yeah, there's still, all of that's still in play. And I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. So, we'd be talking about it for too long, but they basically pulled back their agreement, and they're going back to battling in the courtroom. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, here's the thing. Listen, here's what I believe, and not what I believe, I know. There will always be a place for a real estate agent. There will always be people that want someone on their side. Listen, there's Walmart, and then there's Publix, right? Like Walmart, if you want something cheap, you go to Walmart. But if you want service, if you want someone that knows your name, if you want someone that knows exactly what aisle something's on, when I want certain things, I go to Walmart. When I want certain things, I go to Publix. And there will always be a
100%.
need for a real estate agent. There's just no question in my mind. Will these changes diminish the industry a little bit? Yeah. The consumer, I think, will be impacted. But honestly, nobody's got a crystal ball. I'm just going to keep my head down. So should everybody else. And, like what Chris said, we got to focus on ourselves.
Me. That's all I care about is me, the world, and the shit that I can control. That's it. I'll keep my ear to the world and what's going on, because it'll help me. It'll help everyone that I come in contact with and educate them. But other than that, I only care about this guy and everything else that I can control in my family. That is it.
That's it.
100%.
Yeah.
So
don't waste too much time worrying about it. Stay focused on yourselves. And, there's no question. I have done this for too long, and so have you guys. Nothing can replace us, because what Open Door and Zillow and all these companies don't do is, Jared, like what you were talking about earlier, 50% of what we do is not real estate. It is people. It is managing emotions and the drama, and keeping them calm, and getting them to make sound decisions using the data and the research and the experience. That's not going away. And some people think they can handle it, but the three of us and a lot of people watching this know they can't. It's too hard. It's too emotional.
It can be, and it really is too, because I'll see other agents go through some crazy shit and they're just losing their mind, and I'm like, golly, like it's not that bad. Just control yourself so you could be the control for your client. That's what professionals do. Like you don't hire a badass, like you avoid going to trial by hiring a badass attorney. We're that attorney, for the real estate side of things. Hire a badass agent so you can avoid the issues. When you go to closing and you don't have an issue, you paid a good agent.
Right.
Plain and simple. So James, like where in the status of this market today, where do you see it going?
Well,
what is the next year?
Where would I like for it to go?
Well,
I would love to see. I will both.
Let's take both of those. Yeah, I mean, for the rest of the year, I mean, are housing prices going to continue to increase? The interest rates. What do you think?
No, I think values are going to level off. Interest rates are going to keep creeping up. Market's already softening in every market that we're in. It's already softening. Time on market's gone from days to weeks, and I'm seeing places where it's over 30. So value is going to hold high because there's too many people coming here from outside the state. The data shows that, right? Our region of the United States is the hottest region in the country, and that's going to hold values. But inventory is going to stay in the toilet because people are concerned about war and inflation and finding their next house, and because of the lack of inventory. So we're going to continue to see a low inventory market, and we're going to see, but things are going to take longer. I think you're going to see a lot more people turning to the rental side of things. Rental rates are going to go through the roof. They already are.
They already are.
Yeah.
They're not sustainable. It's not. 61 to 64% of people are now living paycheck to paycheck. That's wild for the first time ever. Maybe not first time ever, but
so look, let me ask you two. I'm going to interview you, the two of you now.
Ooh. Yeah.
How can we not, after 2 years, our fiscal policies, inflation, war looming, how are we not facing a financial tsunami? Like how? Look, we're printing money at record levels. Mm-hmm. Like there has to be, for every action, there's an opposite reaction, right?
Yep.
Prior to COVID, we were in the 11th year of a standard 10-year recession cycle. Mm-hmm. Now we have COVID hit. Like how can we not see a serious financial impact? Now, the difference between now and 06, 08, 10, it's people had no wealth in their homes then. They didn't. Now, people that are homeowners, they have wealth in their homes. The appreciation's gone so much. But now here's the thing. You got to ask yourself, are people going to, are they going to take equity lines on their house and they're just going to expand on their house, maybe put an addition and pimp it out and stay there as opposed to moving around? Like we're going to have to watch that. We're going to have to really watch what happens on the refi side
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see a lot of refis right now. I think refis are essentially done for the most part. I don't see people. I do see people tapping into their equity because year over year,
HELOCs and stuff like that. So that's what I mean. Yeah. People are going to go in and tap into their money because let's say,
but those HELOC rates are not that great anymore.
No, they're not. But what's the alternative? Mm-hmm. They've been out of work. They think now people are emboldened that they don't have to work as much as they used to. And now they're taking, here's the thing. I know because I've seen it with clients and agents and everything else. People have equity into their homes. Look how much money people took from the government. Yeah. I didn't take a dime from the government. I didn't take not 1 cent. And people, they took it. And when the government stops it, which they have, they're going to turn to the next best place and they're going to be pulling HELOCs and they're going to start doing that. And what that's going to do, in my opinion, is it's going to cause them to say, you know what, my house isn't so bad. I'm going to put granite in the kitchen. I'm going to sit and just ride out this financial downturn. We'll see, I think, this continue for another couple of years, like 2 to 3 years before we, look, it takes 3 years to come out of a recession. So if we have a financial market meltdown, real estate industry will kind of halt for a couple of years.
So I have a question for you, James. Since you are the only one in this room that has seen a high up, a steep downslope, and then a gradual followed by a steep increase. If we go into a recession, do you see it collapsing, crashing? Everything that people are just buzzing words I'm seeing all over the place. People are asking me, are we crashing? I'm just like, I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
Explain to me from your experience, because you're the only one that has it. What if the yield inverts and we go into a recession? What do you see our market doing?
So again, I think values are going to keep steady. So again, number one, people have equity in their homes. So there's wealth in their homes. Homes caused the lack of wealth, the negative equity, caused the last crash.
Yes.
Right? Now people 100%. Have it. So they have room. If we downturn and their house goes down 10% in value, they have that room. Yeah. So they're not going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. And because of that, they're not going to panic and say, take it back, bank. They're going to say, look, I lost 20 grand, but I'm still up 60. I'm not unloading this thing. I'm not giving it back to the bank. Yeah. During the last crash, people were like, oh, hell no. I'm upside down 30 grand. Here, bank, take it back. They were doing it when they didn't even have to, Chris. So people have wealth in their homes. They're not going to surrender that wealth. If you lose 20 grand, but you got 60, you're not walking away from that. You're not. That's stupid business.
In the state of Florida, I think is the second or the third year over year equity gained. I think for the state of Florida, we're at $75,000 for 55 or 75 for year over year equity gain. There are other states such as Washington and then California and Arizona surprisingly has some extreme wealth gain. So would you say that this demand is a very real demand instead of an artificial demand that we saw in 2007?
Correct. And lending practices have changed. So you don't have, like what happened last time is if you pass the fog the mirror test, you got approved for a loan. You could only qualify for $300,000 based on your income.
If you were alive,
but you got a $500,000 loan. That doesn't happen now. So when the market turned last time, it exacerbated the issue because their house went down from 500 down to 400, but they could actually only afford 300. And that compounding effect is what just caused the crash. Well, that's not happening now. If you can afford a $300,000 house, that's all you're qualifying for now.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. So those factors are going to keep us propped up. There's wealth in the house. They're not overextended. The lending practices that people went through now are going to keep us propped up. So no, do I see financial markets really taking a hard hit? Oh gosh, it has to. How does it not? Do I see inflation continuing? Oh yes, I do. And I study this, guys, every damn day. Same. I study the financial markets, and all you got to do is listen to Ray Dalio. Go listen to the major players in the stock market. Now is not the time to be playing with stock markets. It is. Wait till you see. Now, will that have an impact on real estate? Sure. People aren't going to like losing money.
Yeah, but not in a drastic effect to where it crashes. Like people think because the stock market crashed, we're going to crash. It's like, no, because like in 2007, or 2008, 2009, what was the unemployment rate? Like 10%?
Yeah, but Chris, I do think it's possible in certain places. So
yes, I don't discount that. 100%.
So for instance, like Chris, do you remember you and I went to North Captiva, right? Remember the island? Mm-hmm. So in places like that, in a 2-year span, so let me ask you guys, do you consider it healthy if values double?
No. In anywhere.
In a 2-year period?
No.
That's unsustainable, right?
Not in a 2-year period, no.
That's insanity, right? Like $300,000 condos now we're 7?
600?
Right.
Yeah, 6, 7, yeah.
No.
That's not sustainable. That is manufactured. So places like that, I think second home markets are going to take a hit without a doubt.
Secondary markets have already. That's actually our next guess.
Our next guess is rude awakening. I think our next guess. Your home, your castle. Like Chris, your home, Jared, your home is fine. Now, if you own vacation property, that's under threat for sure.
Yeah.
So I would worry in that regard.
Yeah, we're actually going to be, our next guest is going to be Greg Meyer. of the mortgage firm, our in-house lender, and we're gonna ask him about like rates and the secondary market and things of that nature. Now where it goes from here. So if we do have that economic collapse and things do kind of soften, do you expect it to be a turn into an immediate buyer's market, or do you expect it to just kind of normalize?
No, I think it's going to normalize. That's a great word. And I'm looking at some of the comments here. Like Jenny asked, like, do you feel that interest rates rising knocks out buyers? Like what we're really starting to see is a normalization. It's a great word, Chris. That's what we're starting to see. People lose context, like, oh my gosh, interest rates are, 4 this or whatever. Like, man, let me tell you something. Like, I remember paying 8-9%. Like,
oh yeah.
And we have to, as real estate agents, we got to do a good job of reminding people, like, look at historically, like, look at what this actually does, going from 3.5 to 4 in your payment. It's damn near nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we've got to do a really good job of keeping people educated. So Jenny, no, I think if you do a good job educating your people, you'll be fine. Do I think that people are watching interest rates go up and panicking? Of course they are, because the media is sensationalizing the hell out of this. And, so will people sit on the fence? Yes. Can they be pulled down off the fence by professionals who can educate them properly? Yeah, I do. And she asked the question, why do I think vacation rental markets and things like that are going to be impacted? Well, I think that when people have a financial impact, when we see the financial markets getting hit, guess what goes away? Discretionary income, right? Like the surplus income goes away. Like you're going to see like the RV market and the marine market, boats, and like you're going to see those values impacted because people's discretionary income is going to go down. So when their discretionary income goes down, there's not 80 people trying to buy a house on Captiva. There's now 5. And if there's only 5 trying to buy a house and there's 12 listings, now the value and the ability for them to ask a premium is going to be diminished. So I think that people are going to see their discretionary income impacted. They're going to hold on to the wealth into their homes. That's not going to change. But I think you're going to see less in your wallet, right? Too much of it's going into your damn gas tank and other places. And you're going to say, you know what? Now's not the time to buy a boat. Now's not the time to buy a vacation house in Captiva. Now's not the time in that. And that's going to impact those secondary markets.
Yeah. And here's, you were talking about
right now is wild.
You were talking about, the interest rates were still at a historical low. I don't know if you guys can see that, but
Yep.
Let me scroll down. There you go. So I mean, this chart, this is on FreddieMac.com. So if you go on there, you can check it out. But this goes all the way back to like 1972. But it peaked out in 1981, and the early 80s. But look, it has continuously gone down. Then let's drop it into the last year. Now we knew this was coming. We knew that we were going to see an increase.
We had to.
Yeah,
there's
we had
no
to,
way
and
they
that's
can stay at like 2.75% interest rates. There's no way.
Right.
We couldn't do it.
Right. So we had to equate. We had to combat the inflation. So the Feds decided, they're going to raise the interest rates, and right now I'll scroll up a little bit. 5.11% for a 30-year. 4.38 and 3.75 for a 5-1-year ARM. So yes, it's higher than what it was yesterday or 2 weeks ago or last year. However, when you go back and look historically, I mean, oh my gosh, we're still pretty
low.
Freaking low.
We're still for the last 15 years, like from 2002 to 2005, I think it was. Like we're right back where it was. So like even now, it's still just like it's still a good time. And like how I'm explaining to buyers like who are asking me, it's just like, is now a good time? My immediate question is, are you looking to sell within 5 years, 10 years? What kind of home is this? 5, 10, 15? And if it's over 5, I'm like, you're fine. Let's go ahead and get you. Let's get you pre-approved. Let's get you shopping. Let's get you out there. You're going to survive this. If it's less than 5, like, don't buy it. I'm telling like right now.
That's a great point, Chris. You're absolutely right.
Don't do it.
Exactly what I tell people too. If you're going to be there, and that's a great number too, 5. Like, because look, 3 years, is what it takes to turn out of a recession cycle. And we don't know when that is going to begin. So 5 is a very good number that if people are going to stay there, like, you know, then you should be good.
And every industry is cyclical. I mean, you know, being in the aviation industry for me since 2007, you know, and I learned back in college that, you know, the aviation industry is cyclical about every 10 to 12 years. You know, it goes up and it peaks and it's great and it's wonderful. And then 2008, you know, everything crashed. It sucked. It was horrible. And now it's back on the rise. It's the same thing for real estate. I mean, everything is on a sine curve. It's on, you know, a cyclical wave, you know. That's what I've seen. I'm sure, James, I don't know if is that kind of what you've seen? Yeah.
The times we're in now is the only time it hasn't matched it. Because like I said, we're probably in year 13 of a standard 10, 11 year recession cycle. So it's a whole different animal now. And it's because we're being propped up by the government. You know, and the reality is we probably should have let it fall. We should have let it happen. Now, look, that's why rates are going up, because they're trying to combat it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And everyone's panicking, but I'll be honest with you, we need it. It has to happen. Like there has to be a correction. And I think people just need to understand that. And, you know, the reality is real estate has always been a phenomenal investment. Realtors have always been a part of it. And I don't see that changing. Will it look a little different? Yeah. But in the end, real estate agents, if you're worth it, you'll be fine. And if you're not looking to turn a quick penny, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I think that is a great way to wrap this up. So, James, do you have any final words for us?
So, if you're thinking about being a broker, understand what the short version of broker is, and it's broke. Understand that
short version is you will be broke.
Yeah, no, and here's what you got to understand. If you're not surrounded by people like you guys, you're going to be in for a hard road. I've been blessed, and I count myself blessed to have guys like you in my life, and you know, people that like, you know, the Ginny Peters and the others that I count as part of my family. Like if you don't get lucky and surround yourself and have people like that connect with you, you're going to be in for a hard time. It's not for everybody, and you have to be blessed and lucky. And I've been all of that, and then not by design. It's just by the grace of God. So
cheers to that, my friend.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time. And we sat here for an hour and 42 minutes talking about brokerages and real estate. But I mean, it's important for people to understand what actually goes on behind the scenes. It's not an easy thing, and it's
none of this.
You know, when you're selling a house, when you're buying a house, you're paying that commission. It's the cost of doing business. You have to look at it like a business transaction. This is not, I mean, as much as you want it to be a personal thing, you have to look at it like a business transaction, and there's a cost to that business transaction. And it's that sticker shock is just, it's always going to get you, because you're selling a $300,000 home, or you know, or up. I mean, there's not many
the median
homes that
is
are
361, sir. The median is not 361.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't mind paying for any service, but I demand excellence, and that's what people just need to do.
Yes,
correct.
And then you'll feel good about it.
Correct.
Don't hire a dipstick, an untrained, a turd. You know, like people that own houses, they're seasoned, they're older, they know what the heck's going on. Like, demand excellence and then pay for it. And then if you're an agent, be excellent and don't give a dime short, don't give an inch short of that, and you'll be fine, because there's always people that want excellence, and you 100%. Won't. It only hurts when you pay a big tab and you got shafted.
Yeah,
that's the only time.
100%. Yeah, that's why I feel for sellers who have that bad experience.
100%.
Good news is I know a couple of really badass agents. If anyone's looking to buy or sell, and
hey, what's their name? Can you tell me what their names are?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Rattle them off right now.
Uh-oh.
And we're blessed to have a ton of them within our company.
Yeah. And, no, there's way more than just. I mean,
it's way more than.
Not gonna lie, Chris and I are pretty badass. But you've got a ton of good agents. I love working with all of them.
I love it.
Everything that I've helped some of them, and many of them have helped me. So they're all good.
That's my single greatest accomplishment, was helping foster an environment where people are like-minded and they're helpful and they really care. And because you don't get that everywhere, guys. Like you don't find that. You don't find it. Like people view you as competition. So the fact that you can pick up the phone and talk to anybody is awesome. So, and I appreciate you, two of you, for being that way. And there's so many people in this company that are the same way, and I love every one of them for it, and I appreciate them for it too.
Yep. Hey, if you want to find more about Century 21 Alton Clark, you can see it on the screen here, but it's you can go to their website. It's c21ac.com. And then if you're a Facebook person, you can go to their Facebook page. It's just search for Alton Clark. Alton Clark. I always say that wrong. I'm sorry, James.
You do it every time.
I'm so sorry that I've been saying it wrong, and I catch myself. But
butchered it much worse, Jared. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, let me just say it goes back to a friend of mine. His name was Alton, and he spelled it Alton, and that's how he pronounced it, Alton. That's where I get Alton Clark. But I try so hard to say Alton Clark. But it's facebook.com/Alton Clark Realty, and go there and check out what we do. I mean, there's a ton of good stuff. And if you're looking for agents,
because you guys do good stuff. I love what you guys are doing.
I appreciate it.
Agents that are watching should be doing something similar.
I appreciate it.
A new mode of communication that people
connect
with.
And, it is.
It doesn't take a whole lot. Like both Chris and Jared have invested some time and money and effort, but here's the thing. It's a lot of fun if you find the right people to do it. And this is kind of one of the new ways that people are communicating. So,
and Chris and I found each other just kind of by happenstance. It's funny because Chris and I have only met, I think, twice in person. Once on a live show, and the second time at the award ceremony. So it's crazy, but I mean, it doesn't take much. You just gotta, just get it going. You just gotta do it.
That's right. So, thank you guys for providing good value to people, and hopefully people keep watching you guys and tuning in, and don't hesitate to holler at me if, you want to talk about another conversation. I'd love to.
Hell yeah. When shit gets real, we'll hit you up for sure.
All right.
Of course. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching. If you want to,
I need a refill. I'll see y'all.
All right, man. We'll see you. If you guys want to find us on the audio only, you can do that on Anchor.fm. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify as well. You can find us if you just search for Whiskey with an Agent on Spotify. And then if you're a fan of iHeartRadio, exactly, you can find us on iHeartRadio. So go there, check us out, and then you can watch us live on all the big social media like YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. So make sure you like, subscribe, make some comments. We love it. All right, man. Chris, cheers. It was fun. Cheers, James. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
We'll see you guys.
Peace.
I'm turning it up. Every time. I know, you can't even hear me.